Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back. Now recently we've been a little bit negative about video games, so let's talk about something positive for a change. Let's talk about Dying Light the Beast. This is the latest Dying Light release that just came out that was supposed to be a DLC, but it's no longer a DLC. It's actually standalone, but it is a DLC by all means. I'll explain later in the video. Now, right off the bat, I do like the Dying Light games. I have them all. Dying Light, The Following. I'm even one of those few who actually like Dying Light 2 best because of all the segments that it has, especially in the city where you can do parkour, kind of like very mirrors edgy. A lot of people complain about the story in Dying Light 2. The story in Dying Light was never the highlight of the game. It's your generic story. Here's a bad guy, there are zombies, just don't die and reach the other objective. What I always liked about Dying Light is that it introduced the parkour mechanics. See, most zombie games are just, hey, the zombie apocalypse. You either have a survival game where your job is to survive, or it's a shooter game and you just shoot the zombies, whether it's third person or first person, just wreck all the zombies and that's it. So aside from shooting zombies and not dying, you also have parkour. I think this is by far one of the most fun ways to traverse the environment. Usually in Dying Light games, there are no fast travel options. I think the map is not big enough to require fast travel. It would also take away from the game mechanic of actually running away from the zombies, especially at night. Now that I remember, there is a fast travel in between zones. Like Dying Light 2 had 2 different zones, and like Villador and that city, you could travel between both of them with fast travel, so you don't have to do the subway segment all the time. But the traversal in this game, even if the map was a little bit larger, it's just so much fun. Just going from point A to point B at night. I don't even bother like fighting zombies. I just run. Running is the most fun activity in all the Dying Light games, and I would say even in this one, because at the beginning a lot of people were saying like the parkour in Dying Light the Beast is better than Dying Light 2. At the start of the game, you don't feel it. At the start of the game, it does feel really clunky. It does feel like, you know, like you're missing a lot of stuff, but it's because I finished Dying Light and I'm used to like having my character with all the skills. Once you get certain skills for Kyle, you do get the awesome and fun parkour that this game is known for. And before I get more into the visuals, I just want to say that I do wish that games had more fun traversal. Now, this game has parkour in a zombie apocalypse setting, and I know not every game can have parkour, although I'm looking at you, Assassin's Creed, why don't you have parkour again in your game? Why do I have to be running around on a horse? I do wish that even with the horse, games will find ways to make traversal more fun. I'm one of those people who uses fast travel a lot, because sometimes in modern games, traversing is not that much fun anymore. When you have semi-open world or even open world games, going from point A to point B is just a chore. You either walk, run, or you're on a horse. And yeah, the first few times doing combat on a horse, maybe if you have a couple encounters here and there, it's fun, but it gets tedious. And this game does it very well. Now, moving on to the visuals. As you can see from the options on screen, I didn't see any ray tracing features, which is good. I don't know if the general GI in this engine is actually using real-time ray tracing. From what I understand, natively it doesn't. Apparently ray tracing was introduced in Dying Light 2, but it wasn't an initial part of this engine. By the way, this is Techland's proprietary engine. It's called the Chrome engine. No, not this engine. It's actually called the Chrome engine. This is the 6th iteration from what I've read. What we're seeing here is exactly what we had in Dying Light 2. Probably a couple visual upgrades. But this is why I mentioned in the beginning that this is by all means a DLC, because it is from the same engine. There hasn't been any major leaps forwards in terms of how everything is rendered and how everything works. From Dying Light 2, apart from the story and the character, most of the things still work like in Dying Light 2. In fact, I'm looking at some of the tools to do a dissect the video on this game, and some of them still work in Dying Light the Beast. Now, what I see around my environment is very good. I really like how the GI global illumination is laid all around. There's very good use of normals. The geometry is very simple compared to what we've seen recently, but only because most of the recent games that we've seen they are made in Unreal Engine, and Unreal Engine has Nanite, which permits a lot more polygons on screen and permits a different type of it's just a different type of LOD, if you will. Well, we'll talk about that more in another video that's exclusive to optimization, so make sure you subscribe for that, because I'm going to talk about everyone's favorite word and describe it the way that it should be, not in the nebulous way that everybody uses it on social media. Now, when it comes to the textures, there is very good texel density all around. I like what I see. If you get too close, of course, you do get to see a little bit of pixelation here and there and breaking of the normals, but that's okay. It's par for the course on this game. And like I said, this is using the same engine and the same way of rendering that Techland used for Dying Light 2. To some might be a little bit old compared to other engines, but I think it does the job. This game, in my case, I'm running this game at around 120, 115 frames per second, which to me, I'm happy with that. That is the frame rate that I like. Everything is cranked up. I am playing with native scalability. I'm not playing with any AI upscaling. I'm pretty sure if I turn that on, the frame rate will go through the roof. Speaking about frame generation a little bit, I think this is the way that this is supposed to be used, where your game works perfectly fine without frame generation. But if you just want to push those insane amount of frames, then you can do so with frame generation. Like I said, I'm running more than 100 frames per second on this game, native resolution, 4K, everything cranked up all the way up, and I have a 5090. And yes, you're saying, well, you have top of the line equipment. Yes, I do. But we recently tested Borderlands, and I couldn't get that thing past 50 frames per second native. I had to turn frame generation on, which was not good. That is not the case here. This game runs perfectly well without frame generation. However, frame generation is there if I wanted to use it. If I wanted to bump the frames to insane amounts, it's there to use. And maybe if you have a GPU that is not as powerful as a 5090 and you want to push it like all the way 4K 120 frames per second, you want to use AI frame gen, I think it's a great tool. But my complaints in the Borderlands game was the fact that you were using frame gen to run this game as it should run, which is not the way that I think gaming should be going. But anyways, I think Techland has done a fantastic job with this game, mechanic wise, visual wise, lighting wise. The geometry of the characters, I think, is high enough for them to be in cinematics and in games. Now, what you're seeing here is a little bit about the nighttime. This time, the nighttime is a little bit darker. I'm glad I'm not the only one who sees it that way. A lot of people are mentioning that the nights are darker and they are scarier. I'm not a fan of doing night runs in these games. I just like to run around doing parkour, hitting some zombies, hitting some objectives, gaining experience. I just do the night whenever the story calls for it, so I can progress for new skills. Not my favorite time. I don't like being inside because whenever I see a volatile, I just bolt it. It scares the crap out of me. You can call me a chicken or whatever. The volatiles scare the crap out of me, so I just run to the best of my abilities. And again, that's what I love about this game, is that when you're running, you're just not running. The parkour is so cool. the way that you jump over obstacles and all that. There were a couple of hitches, and I can count it with 2 fingers the amount of times that I had hitches in this game. Never as other Unreal Engine games. Unfortunately, that's another topic that I need to talk about in the channel, is about the shader compilation, what's causing stuttering. So yeah, the stuttering and the shader compilation is something that has kind of changed my mind when it comes to using Unreal Engine for games. So I'm also gonna have a video for that. So make sure you subscribe. Highly recommend this game if you like the Dying Light games. If you like zombie games, this is the best zombie game that ever was that isn't a survival game. I don't see this as a survival game. I see this as a more of an action slash horror game. So if you like that type of game with zombies, highly recommend this game, even if you're a chicken like me who gets scared easily with these kinds of monsters. So remember to leave a like and leave a comment, because it goes a long way for helping out the channel. It's what the algorithm wants. Again, thank you so much for watching all the way to this point. Good night and good luck.